We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. And thank you so much for joining us as we invite you to be a part of our discussion here on this another terrific Tuesday's edition of Talk Today. And we start things off talking about the Cayman Arts Festival, 1 p.m. right after the headline news. We'll welcome our friends from the Cayman Crisis Center. And then at 1:30, we'll get a talk to the good folks over at the Health Services Authority as we talk about World Cancer Day. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. And thank you so much for joining us as we invite you to be a part of the discussion. It's always good to showcase, as I always say, the incredible talent and the wealth that we have within our society. And when we can assemble, especially like a time such as this, and talk about it, well, it just reminds us of the blessed place in which we live. Well, as we speak to the whole, concept of arts, and in particular the Cayman Arts Festival, the Executive Director, Marius Guyana, thanks again for partnering, for reminding the community that if we grow that from within, who knows what the export will be, but we certainly know what the appreciation should be from within. So good afternoon to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us back here.
Oh, always a pleasure, man.
We came with a different setup now. We have Glenn, we have Nathan here, and I will just come and fill in if needed. If not, you have two good talkers, musicians here.
And he looks to you, Glenn. The venerable Glenn Anango. Good afternoon, my friend. How are you today?
Good afternoon, Sterling Dwayne, and good afternoon to the listeners. It's great to be here today. Thanks for having us on Radio Cayman, one of our favourite places to be whenever it's time to talk about what's coming up in the community. So thanks.
Thank you, man. And last evening, I was having my meal alone, and I was sitting, by the table, and I don't say this to offend anybody. I'd rather a book. I'd rather some sort of paper as opposed to this electronic device, but it was accessible, so I popped it up and I wanted to reread Twelfth Night. I really enjoyed that. So I'm eating and I'm just reading through. The face of the screen is cracked, and I'm really reminded of a good literature teacher introducing something to you that probably even now my classmates listening would say, "Man, he was always weird, man. Something's wrong with him." but it's that notion of what the arts and the introduction of performing can do for you. And as I was reading, laughing, and being reminded of the antics in the classroom, some of the attempt at humor by some of us, and even the teacher, and even some of the words. I compared that to when we were reading Chaucer, and I thought, man, you're talking about debauchery. It was only then. But before I ask, Nathan to sort of join us, Glenn, from that perspective, we paint the arts, in particular, and performing arts, in some quarters as if it's like sport. That's for them. It's not for all of us. You have to be good at it. You can't just appreciate it for so.
Right. Now, you raised a very good point. I always believe that everybody has some sort of musical, artistic expression within them. It doesn't matter how it comes out. Everybody's got it. It's part of their makeup. It's part of what it means to be a human being.
Right.
So I always encourage people to get involved we need people to perform, but we also need people to appreciate
Appreciate it, yeah.
Exactly. And my dad always reminded me of this whenever people would speak to him and say, hey, you know, in your family, you know, your wife she's a musician, your children, they play instruments, you know, so what do you play? And he says, well, somebody has to be in the audience to clap. And that was the end of that discussion. But no, I really believe you're building the audiences of tomorrow through introducing children to this sort of thing. And many of them don't necessarily want to take it up as a profession or a career, but I really think everybody should be given exposure to it. Everybody has that right if you can go that far.
I would like to add something here. I hope I remember his name, Arturo Delmoni.
Arturo Delmoni, yes.
He was here a few years ago.
Arturo Delmoni,
yes.
no.
It was one of Glenn's friends, and in an interview he was mentioning that actually he's just delivering something that a composer created, an arranger helped, and he's performing for the audience. So it was 4 or 5 actors that they come together for an for a concert. So it's not just the performer, it's not just the one that you see, it's a lot of work behind him. It's a lot of work of people that you don't see, like me.
Good point.
It's a holistic approach.
Well, it's like the Jester in 12th Night, you know, he says everybody has talents, right? It's just for you to expose yours and to have a time to embrace it. Thankfully, you know, like Glenn, Nathan, you incredibly talented. But what I was reminding myself earlier is that not just the family and the gifting that's within, but I always thought that you were playing the guitar and music line from the womb. But as I read your bio, age 15, right? And if I could, maybe the perception is that you're introduced to the child very early, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, and you're starting to play and perform and practice. At 15, most young boys are playing football, chasing. But you pick up the instrument. Give us a perspective. I mean, how that was.
Well, I did start music very young.
Yeah.
Around 4 or 5, I started with the piano.
Right.
So I played the piano for years, and then actually saxophone. And I played in school. I played in the school band, and so I was already knowledgeable about how to read and how to play. And my father, he would always make us listen to vinyl. Like back in the day, from the time I was 5 years old, we were listening to a lot of classical music, a lot of guitar, Spanish guitar. But he had a pretty wide collection of vinyl, and so he would force us to, but after a while I started doing it on my own. I really started enjoying it. And so, I mean, I always look back and I think, oh, I wish I started guitar earlier, but I mean, it is what it is.
and perhaps if you'd allow me, and both of you, because I think I would like for us to be encouraged. I keep saying as parents in particular, as the adults in their lives that influence the younger ones. It's never too late to start something. You know, we're 50 years old now, and we want to, you know, I would like to like a language or learn an instrument. Not another instrument, maybe an instrument for the first time. It's never too late to start. You may never be as great, you know, as Glenn or as Nathan or, you know, Susan even, but it's never too late. So 2 things, and one immediately, is it the home environment, as Glenn has reminded us before, that nurtures? Whether your parents play, whether you're introduced to it, maybe they just buy, you know, a xylophone and they put it there and so that you can just go and have fun. Is that part of the introduction and the nurturing that may lead to the discovery of the gifting?
Well, I would say, I mean, obviously I have to speak from my own experience, and I would say absolutely. In my experience, because both my parents played guitar, piano, violin, sang, and extended family, you know, my Aunt Julia and, you know, my grandmother and everyone, like here in Cayman played instruments. My mother's from Trinidad, and they were all musical as well. So for me, that's all I know. If you didn't play professional, you're still going to play, no matter what. Something like my brother. He's here, and he leads worship at church and plays guitar and sings, and he studied classical guitar as well. So from my own experience, the family, there are cases that I know that you know, they just started playing, and there wasn't a family tradition or necessarily nurture that way. But I mean, more often than not, I feel like that's the case.
All right. piano, sax, guitar. 2 questions immediately. Preference for one, and is one easier, quote unquote, and that's a subjective thing, to adopt, to learn, to sort of be inclined to?
I think that for one, a lot of people talk about talent. Like I've had some very talented students, naturally gifted, but didn't really go on and do anything with it because they didn't practice.
Lazy? Sorry.
But they didn't practice. So I think that one of the biggest things is, like, for me, if you have a love and desire to do something, that's what you're going to commit yourself to. For example, guitar. I mean, no offense, I didn't like to play the piano.
And that's one thing I've actually discovered. Each person has the instrument that they're naturally sort of suited to.
Yeah, it wasn't that I could not play the piano, but I wasn't self-motivated to learn to play. With guitar, I was very self-motivated to play because I loved to do it.
Right.
I saw the same thing happen to my baby brother. Well, he's a big guy now. But the same thing. He did piano for the longest while, hated it, and he was forced to, and my mother wouldn't have anything. No, this won't get away. She made him do it. And he just resisted. He had to play, but then he discovered the trumpet.
Right.
And in 1 year, he covered what took him like 5 or 6 years on the piano to do.
Exactly. So that's an exact kind of
so
similar
I fully
story.
get it. It's amazing. But I was very interested in what you said, that you wish you had done the guitar or discovered the guitar earlier. How do you think things would be different now?
Well, it's not. It's a kind of a. I discovered the guitar when I was, like I said, listening to all the albums when I was 5 years old. I mean, I loved it.
Oh, I see.
But it was just funny because my parents put me in the piano and they didn't encourage. Even though both my parents played the guitar, there was some blank, and I'm like, when I think it says 15. I was actually, I think, 14, but I was just like, I'm just going to play the guitar on myself, regardless of anybody teaching me. So my parents taught me for about 2 months, and then I got better than them. And so they're like, well, you need to take lessons.
And I'm not necessarily in your case, right? And I'm glad you answered it the way you did, because I was thinking that we sometimes, as parents, as teachers, as adults, inadvertently stare at children, right? So this is just me thinking out as to how we may create perceptions. Play this sport, not that sport, because this sport gives you access. That sport is just for entertainment. Play this instrument because it's classical, it's sexy, it opens doors, whichever. The guitar probably was seen as, in some ways, that's what you do in a nightclub. That's what you do to go to the beach, right? I remember being in Mexico, and there was this older, I think he was as ancient as the hills. Not by the way he played, but just by the leathery looks and his fingers being worn. And I was sitting there. He's on the stage, and he was as close as I could get. And as he was playing that guitar, and his face wrinkled, his eyes, his heart, and his fingers almost as big as my father's, right? But he moved across that fret in such a way that I thought, is that a guitar he's playing, or is this an angel from heaven? I mean, amazing. And I went home and I go, I want to be like that. And I realized, okay, no, that doesn't happen. Not overnight, not in 1,000 years. But he had something about it. And sometime later I saw, I think with Carlos Santana, and more recently, his song, she fell in love with the guitar. Spanish guitar played by Carlos Santana. It wasn't a her, but I could see it. There's something about it, man. It can speak to you in a language that is amazing, right?
Yes.
All right. When we come back from the break, can we talk about the event coming up? I think this is a good event. No, I was going to make a joke, but let me leave that for alone. It's a good event to attend. Just put it that way. All right. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
How can you take your business from good to great and thrive in the new normal? By finding the smartest, most powerful IT solutions to optimize your business operations. And now, Digicel Business Hub is making it simple for you. High-speed Wi-Fi, mobile and office phones, IT security, Microsoft Office with Teams, and much more. Everything your business needs to level up in the new normal. Get world-class IT for your business with Digicel Business Hub. Sign up today. Call us on 623-3444 or visit our website, digicelbusiness.com.
Miller's Plumbing, with over 47 years of experience. They will get the job done for you on time, the first time. Call them at 949-4709 for a free estimate. Miller's Plumbing, a proud sponsor of Radio Cayman's 7 a.m. weather update.
plumber. I've come to fix the sink.
Money Sense is the only personal finance radio show and podcast in the Cayman Islands, bringing an informed financial perspective to the Cayman community. Join us this Thursday as we assess Cayman's competitiveness. What is Cayman's standing in the world today, and how much at risk are we from new OECD or EU regulations? Are blacklists an existential risk for Cayman? Tony Travers will join Money Sense to discuss these very topics live this Thursday at 7:30 a.m. on Radio Cayman. Follow us on Twitter and tweet your questions to @MoneySenseRadio in partnership with the CFA Society Cayman Islands and sponsored by the Cayman Islands Chamber Pension Plan. Catch Money Sense this Thursday at 7:30 a.m.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us as we invite you to be a part of a discussion about the Cayman Arts Festival and an excellent event. They all are fantastic. At this time, Nathan Barnett Herrera, Signor, ¿qué tal, amigo? No. Glenn and Angle together with Marius Kiana. It's only Tuesday, gentlemen. You imagine the trouble I can get in by Thursday. Wait till Friday comes back. But it's a love for life. It's an appreciation for music. It's something that I think Glenn has always reminded me. It isn't that you have to go to an art gallery and understand, the painting. What was the artist trying to convey? You just need to look at it and say, you know what? This speaks to me, doesn't speak to me, this is what I see. It's not pareidolia necessarily in the images, but it's about appreciating. Same with music. I like classical and I love country. I had to run out for a second on the drive back in. The guys behind the border really came on, were playing a country song. Now, I love country, and I was driving around, and if you saw me, you probably thought, man, that early in the morning, he already is that high on life. But music, right? Yeah. Music speaks to you. Music invigorates. Music, entices. Music nourishes, man.
One thing I think is fantastic about Nathan is he writes his own stuff. And I think that is something that is just so beautiful, generally, about people being able to articulate how they feel about something through creating what they feel is going to project their thoughts and their emotions about whatever it is that they're trying to say. Because in my field, you get composers and you have performers who perform a lot of what the composers have sort of composed. But the interesting thing is, about 100 years ago, it wasn't so much like that. People who were composers were performing as well.
Like Franz Liszt.
Precisely.
Yeah,
And
they're playing their own music.
They're playing their own music. And I think over the past 100, 150 years, there's been this demarcation between, I only perform, I don't compose.
Right,
And I think it's sad because something has been kind of lost. Over a period of time. Folk, I'm talking about classical music.
Classical music,
but I think the most natural thing is to compose, if you can, and express what you have to say. And then when you come to play something by somebody else that's been written, then you appreciate what might have gone through their minds when they were creating.
Exactly. Yeah, I was never... it wasn't a goal like, I want to be a composer and write my own music. But when I was going to school for classical guitar performance, I started studying composition because I felt like I need to write my own music. So it was kind of a double major. So I just started studying like composition, formal composition, how to do it. And so I started writing. I just started writing pieces when I was probably 18 or 19 then, and I just thought this is what I need to do. So even now there's a couple pieces that I'm playing that I didn't write on the concert, but most of them are from my latest album. But one of the things too is I had to find a medium to write. So for me, flamenco became the medium. That's the medium where I could use the guitar to write. So it provided a structure for composing.
Interesting.
I want to add something here, because it's coming somehow. It's becoming a trend. Last year we had here from Croatia, we had a group, Lana Janjanin, and she was so happy that she was able to perform her pieces. Sometimes we, as organizers, we request certain type of pieces, and she said, "Oh, I'm so happy that you allow me to play my music." And I've been with my little one a few weeks ago in the hospital, and the doctor said, "Oh, you brought that. I remember I've been to the concert. I love that music. It was so personal, and I understood the performer different. It was a different type of music. I'm still listening to that CD." So it's the same what Nathan is doing now with Camino de Luz, yes? The Road to Light?
Or Path of Light.
Path of Light, okay. I'm not a Spanish
You
speaker.
could say that, but Path of Light is
Path of Light.
more,
And it's something new. I mean, I would love to listen to this music at the concert.
Yeah.
It's not it's not a first audition. I mean, it's not the first time when you play these songs, but for us will be the first time.
Yes,
will you have CDs there?
I will.
Great, please do.
Yes, I will.
And that's one of the great things I think we take for granted here. You know, you get to meet the composer, the performer. Sometimes you actually don't know the person, and it's not because it's an emerging artist. It's the personal approach that you bring to it. You know, I still think of the Trio when they came. I still think of the ladies from Croatia. We had a blast. They were right here, and I thought I should pay for myself. Suppose my mother sees this thing, right? But it was so personal. It was so engaging and interactive, and you come away inspired. And I'm hoping that'll cause people. I say this with great deference to all of the, the steel pan players. It was only until I saw Glenn, doing it in a classical style that I thought, wow, this thing is even more versatile than I thought. Because up until then, it was an instrument for entertainment.
Right.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Anyway, I shall be here before I get in trouble. But maybe two other quick things. First, we were speaking about the event, but Marius, when is it? Where is it? We're not telling people.
Okay, the event will be on Thursday, February 11th.
So not this Thursday?
No, this Thursday, 11th.
The 11th,
next week.
Okay.
To Westin Hotel Ballroom. And the event is sponsored by RBC Dominion Securities. The tickets are at CaymanArtsFestival.com on our website, or you can go on our Facebook page. You can find the link there that is throwing you directly to the page where you can buy the tickets, or you can call me at 922-5550, and we can talk and see how we can find ways of getting tickets for you.
And it's 7 p.m.?
7 p.m.
So at the West End on the 11th.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think, Glenn, this is, not just an evening out of great entertainment, camaraderie, fellowship, networking, but it sort of takes you back and makes you appreciate what it is, to be alive. I love piano. I love the guitar. And there's something not just magical, but there's something about the instruments that speak to you. I can almost hear the words in it. I don't know. And I'm not, in my mind, that good at music, so to speak, right? I'm being kind to myself, right? But I can appreciate it. So for the audience who are listening, as a performer, and as I asked Nathan to sort of share, you're on stage and you're performing.
Wow, okay, you put me on the spot.
Yes,
so
please, because it's your expertise.
I am playing on the 13th. It's the last event sponsored by Butterfield Bank. I'm very thrilled they've come on board as well. So yes, when we were looking locally to look for people who are going to be presented in the festival, I felt it would be the right thing to do to give a piano recital. But then what do I perform? Because people always see me perform little snippets here and there. And it took a long time before I decided what I was going to play, because it was going to be a combination of works that I hadn't really necessarily performed here in Cayman before, and works that really speak to the heart of my musical values. And so I've settled on a most amazing program. And I remember Marius was saying, "Oh, Glenn, you need to put something on social media so people can get a little sense of what you're doing." And, I was practicing earlier this morning. I thought, let me just see what this comes out as. And I put the camera on, because I never post anything, basically. I'm just not a poster. And I thought, let's just throw this out there, And for me, it's been a personal journey. So, I put something out just before I came. And I thought, let's see what people think. A little snippet of what I will be performing. So, there's going to be a very strong Viennese sort of theme running right through. I've been doing a lot of my analysis of the program, which wasn't designed deliberately that kind of theme, but it just so turned out that it's an amazing story of what these composers who are living around the same time, coming from different perspectives, thought about how they would express themselves. And these are a whole bunch of masterpieces which are all brought together in one evening. There's a lot of intensity going on. I'm going to make sure people can see my hands, so we're going to project my hands up on the screen, because sometimes it enhances the experience if people can actually get really close to what you're doing. And I'll be explaining why I'm playing some of these pieces. So I've got my favorite composers on there, Schubert, and some other Viennese composers like Carl Weigel, Alban Berg, and I'll be playing Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue in the version for orchestra and piano, but I'm fusing both parts. So I'm going to be quite busy.
It's going
to go all over the place. But hey, it's good music. It's great music. And I enjoy playing these pieces. One of them I haven't performed for almost 25, 26 years. I've performed only once, and it's unbelievable. Wow. And your perspective on the piece changes over the years as you get older. So that to me is how I'll be going through this self-discovery and sharing that with the audience, and hopefully it will feel like a journey for them when they're listening. So that's on the 13th on Saturday.
A strong Viennese theme, so that means some Viennese hot chocolate maybe served.
We go to Vienna with our mind, and no mask, no anything.
I was hoping for.
The best thing for me personally is I was reminded that I actually went to Vienna 10 years ago around this time. In fact, this time 10 years ago, I was in the Musikverein performing. Wow. And it's unbelievable place. Unbelievable city. So yes, I think it's perfect timing to be playing this kind of repertoire.
And as you were sharing too about projecting your hands, I was thinking, and thank you for doing that, because for me it gives a great segue, the piano and the guitar. Sometimes we hear the guitar, but we rarely get to hear the piano, we really get to see, the piece being performed and the intensity, of the pianist. But with the guitarist, it's right in center.
Yeah,
and you probably, for me, you rarely look at the person's face. You're so enamored with.
Right.
You can see everything. The hands right in front.
And that's what music is. I want to be careful because it's a family show, but it takes you away. It imbues within you a sense of energy. To be in a live performance of any kind, but to hear music being played like that, it's evocative.
Yes.
How about that?
Oh yes, that's a good word.
Good word.
I want to add something that might be somehow. We are relaxed here. Everything is fine. The public will listen to now, and they were thinking, okay, in old tradition here, I'll go at the door and buy tickets. So on. Be careful, we might be sold out. We already have one event sold out, the one from Thursday. The kids event that we have with the Cayman Youth Choir, it's almost sold out. And when their events sold out, people start focusing immediately on the remaining events and start getting tickets. And they might have surprises. So if they want, they should go now to get something. We still have some restrictions. We still have a limited number of seats. If you really want to come, check our website.
Okay. When we come back from this break, maybe take us through some of the other events, including the fringe ones as well.
Absolutely.
But if I could ask, Nathan, from your perspective, of the pieces you perform, are there particular pieces that appeal to you? I mean, as I look through the list, Tia, Julia, is that a tribute to you? I mean, how does that go? And some of the pieces, if you're comfortable sharing with us.
Oh, of course.
So after the break, we'll do those two things. And I genuinely love music. I mean, I was fondly reminded of my mother in the kitchen, singing, humming, doing something. My father even now playing the guitar. He's not a Carlos Santana, but I tell you what, to me he's even better. So that's the love that we have and appreciation. Let's pause and take a short break, and when we come back, it might be Viennese, hot chocolate, but we'll see what Susan brings for us. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@cspc.ca. candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Everywhere.
Can you hear me now? Everywhere. Everywhere.
Yes, right from your Android or iPhone. Download the Radio Cayman app now on your Android or iOS phone.
The Radio Cayman app
is where you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere you go.
Everywhere we go, we go. Everywhere we go, we go.
Find it in the Google Store, the Apple Store, or use the link at www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Yes, now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
This is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I'm gonna walk them golden stairs, 'cause I know my Jesus answers all my prayers.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Praise time.
There's nothing to go back to.
Give me Jesus in the morning.
For the God of the mountain is still God in the valley.
Shout with joy to God, all the earth sing glory to His name. Praise time. Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And I hope and pray that you appreciate not just the great talent and the wealth that we have within our society, but we provide continually the venue, the forum, the inspiration, the encouragement, and that nurturing support to instill within our people that strong appreciation for who we are, where we are, and what we are. Nathan Barnett, thanks very much, not just for your talent, but for your time and for sharing with us the treasure. Marius Gana, likewise to Glenn Ananga. The Cayman Arts Festival has become, I think, for many of us, a household name. It's become something that appreciates a society's opportunity to come out and see the arts. But I think this time around, not just because of how the world governments have sort of colluded, or however you want to say, we can now look within and celebrate even more the amazing talent that is here, from our school children to the accomplished and gifted and talented musicians like Nathan. So, as I was asking about the other events, perhaps Marius, maybe start for us.
Okay, I will. I wanted to mention something before I start.
Yes, please.
I will have all the schedule here. This was one of the hardest festivals to be put together. At the beginning, when we were planning initially how to do it, we had to change. We had to change the events and everything 2-3 times till we reach here. We didn't know if we have enough sponsors, and I would like to mention them because they came on board. Everybody had a hard year. I don't even need to mention this anymore. And from this perspective, I mean, we are privileged, and I'm honored to have performers still being here and coming to perform for us. Because it was not easy. There are a lot of sleepless nights to put all of this together, and we have a small team, and we try to do our best. And now we managed to put 10 events together. We mentioned some of them here. We focus a lot of time on the major ones, of course, those that they produce proceeds for us. That will keep us to still see you next year again. So we will start on Thursday, February 4th, with Music at the Library, already a sold-out event. And we are still working to some technical parts to stream live this event. And I have a feeling that the public demand will repeat this event. We will do it again. We'll try to highlight the works of Lila Ross Shear. So I see a lot of movements now, and people, they want to see even more. So we probably will do this one again. We have on Friday, February 5th, at 10:30 a.m., theater for children. This is something new for us. We put together a small group of kids that they come and play for kindergarten kids and preschoolers. So if your child is in one of the preschools or it's at home, and you can come at the library at 10:30 on Friday to learn about manners. It's a play about manners. Then we have Georgina. She was here last week on Saturday, February 6th, 7 p.m. The venue is Westin Hotel Ballroom. Opera, operetta, and Broadway. We have spoken about this. On Monday, we have at Kamana Bay Cinema. This is by invitation only, but I'll explain immediately what happened. It's a documentary called Kinshasa Symphony, multi-awarded documentary. And we thought that inviting the music teachers on this island to come to see this documentary would be something that is like a nice gesture that we do for them, and if possible, with the approval of the producer of this documentary, we can do it for the public too. But this is the just for them at this moment. We have on Tuesday, February 9th, 5 p.m. Rising Stars. So we try every year to bring on stage the future of Cayman music. And we have 10 students that will come and perform at the library. So I said 5 p.m. Then on Wednesday, we have music for children, again for kindergarten and preschoolers at the library, 10:30 a.m. Please feel free to come with your child there. It's free of charge. And in the evening, for the first time, we tried to launch a literary arts program, and we invited, I know that Graham was here, Graham Morse. It's a local author, and he's coming to tell us how he wrote his last book, how he published the book, and try to explain to everybody all this process. We also have somebody from a local publishing house trying to put together all of this. So if your child or you have a book, or you want to know how to publish a book, please come. It's free of charge. It's 5 p.m. on Wednesday, February 10th. Then, as we mentioned, we have on Thursday, February 11th, 7 p.m. Nathan's event. Then we have on Friday, February 12th, 6 p.m. Cayman Youth Choir with Beatlemania concert, music from Beatles repertoire. It's almost sold out. I have at home probably 10 more tickets. And then Saturday, February 13th, 6:30 this time. If our events at Westin usually begins at 7 p.m., this one begins at 6:30. It's Glenn piano recital.
Wow!
I have spoken 5 minutes just to mention all the events.
Yeah, I mean, and that's probably why it's so phenomenal. There's everything on the calendar for.
No, we try to send the message that it's normal. Come and see a concert. A few months ago, you're staying inside and you're looking for a virtual concert. Right. You're looking for something online. You're looking for YouTube. Right. Now it's live. You can come and talk with the performer. You can come to ask an autograph. You can buy a CD with their music. You are in a normal place. So we try to send this message.
There you go. And as we get near our end of our discussion, Nathan, if I could ask you, as you perform the pieces, are there particular pieces on that evening that appeal to you maybe more, maybe because of the time, maybe because of the composition, for whatever reason? Are there special pieces that sort of touch you this time?
Yes, we were talking during the break that Tia Julia or Tia Julia, like my great aunt, Aunt Julia, was actually my great aunt. It was a tribute. I guess you could say a tribute to her, but it's more of not something that she would write, but it was something that when I was kind of writing the melody, something that she would enjoy. Yeah. It's not super sophisticated. So the melody's quite simple, but I made the harmony a little bit more complex just for my own enjoyment. That one, the Ecos de la Sierra, which is it's kind of like the best way to say it would be like mountain echoes, the mountain range, and just the way that this was composed and arranged with my producer Paul Bosaler, we added strings to it, and it just has this sweeping sound, almost like Lord of the Rings. It's kind of like this epic feel. At least on the album, I don't have a whole, I don't have a string section this time around, but I really love to play that one. Camino de Luz, the Alegrías, it's actually the only track on the album that has any vocals. So I took a traditional Spanish flamenco letra, as they call it, the verse, and I added to it, and I kind of changed it. And this one, it was written and arranged during a really tough time. My wife's sister had died, and I was in Arizona with her family, and we were kind of putting this together. So the way that it came out, I couldn't have been more happy to it. Every time I listened to it, I almost just like can't believe that it came out so well. Yeah, the emotional. Yeah, and I love to play it. It's one of the more technical pieces as well. There's a lot of difficult sections, but but I still like to play it a lot. There's also this part, but yeah, I really like that one.
Yeah, I think too. Maybe this way the audience will get a chance, as Marius was sharing, the visit to the HSA and being reminded of the emotion, the passion, the personal touch. We get to feel that, we get to see that, we get to sense it, and I think that's what draws us to return every year. But maybe it'll inspire us to appreciate it more as we pop in the CD, But more importantly, as we were reminded that we were in attendance in the audience in the evening. What where that'll take us, who knows? What it'll mean for us, who knows? But one thing's for sure, when the day passes, you're not there. Well, you're absent. So there's one way to count, right? So Glenn, from your performance to cap it off to all of the other bits and pieces in between, it's another wonderful arts festival.
Yeah, I'm very delighted. I want to thank Marius as well. He worked extremely hard putting this entire program together. And again, I'd like to thank the people who are going to be performing. It's all locally grown, I like to say, locally grown talent. It reminds us of what we have locally available to us here, and it gives us a renewed appreciation for all the efforts that the teachers have gone to getting these children ready, and lots of platforms for young people to perform. And I really urge people to come out and support these events. You're not just supporting it by coming to enjoy the event, but all the proceeds that come from these events go towards our educational programs. So sometimes people can't come and they just buy a ticket. That ticket really does contribute to all the efforts of what we're trying to achieve in the community, and it's mind-blowing to see how many of these kids are benefiting from these programs. So that's just a gentle reminder, but also to thank Radio Cayman for constantly standing by us. We really enjoy coming to share with the listeners what it is that's coming up on the horizon. And I know Marius will probably thank some of the sponsors, but for now I just want to show my gratitude for all the entire community for coming together to make this happen. I'm still amazed that we're having live events when many of our counterparts around the globe just have nothing because everything has been shut down, and that's just really just heartbreaking to hear. But again, we are very, very blessed here in the Cayman Islands, and we want to thank our leaders for making sure that they put the controls in place.
And our community for being so, civil and responsive. So, Marius, thanks again, man. I heard you had a couple of B12 shots, so this is a good chance to put the energy to work, man.
I wanted to mention the names of the sponsors because a month and a half ago, I was worried, to be honest. There were not answers. So they came on board, and we have a nice amount, and we are able to keep the tickets at the very low price. We try to make as many free events as possible, and this is because we have sponsors that came on board. Walkers, we have Butterfield, we have RBC Dominion Securities, we have Minister of Education, we have Radio Cayman, Andrew Galloway, Rawlinson and Hunter, Sinclair's, London and Amsterdam Trust, Kensington, and Cayman Islands Public Library Service. Thank you so much. It's impossible without their help.
many hands make light work, and I think the strength is in the community that supports each other. Yes, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the studio as time goes on. Maybe just a conversation, maybe you come in. I can see a Christmas concert, you and Glenn will bring the piano, will bring the guitar.
Absolutely.
Susan will get the chocolate. It's going to be good. But gentlemen, enjoy your week, and my prayers are for another resounding, successful arts festival that inspires our young people to greatness and encourages our parents to continue to make that sacrifice as we serve the interests of our children. So thank you all very much, right?
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Let's pause and take a break, and when we come back, well, we want you to continue to be a part of our continued discussion, so stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
From Radio Cayman's newsroom, I'm Shanda Gallego with your latest headlines. A team of 14 from the United Kingdom Ministry of Defence training team are quarantining as they await a session with the Cayman Islands Regiment. The group arrived on Friday on an RAF aircraft. After clearing quarantine, they will train the latest group of 50 regiment recruits, which will bring the number of trained officers and reservists in Cayman to 110. Turning to international news now, 2 FBI agents were fatally shot and 3 wounded Tuesday while serving a federal search warrant in a child exploitation case in South Florida, authorities said. The suspect also died at some point during the standoff in which he barred a home. That's according to FBI Special Agent Michael D. Leverock. 2 of the wounded agents were taken to hospitals to be treated and were in stable condition, adding that the names of the deceased agents will not be released immediately. The suspect's name was also not released. Rohingya refugees from Myanmar living in camps in Bangladesh condemned the military coup in their homeland and said it makes them more fearful to return. A counter-insurgency operation by Myanmar's military in 2017 involving mass rape, murders, and the torching of villages drove more than 700,000 Rohingya Muslims into neighboring Bangladesh. And Captain Sir Tom Moore has died with coronavirus. The 100-year-old who raised almost £33 million for NHS charities was taken to Bedford Hospital after requiring help with his breathing on Sunday. His daughter said the family had spent hours chatting to him after he caught pneumonia. Last week he tested positive for COVID-19. Buckingham Palace said the Queen was sending a private message of condolence to his family. He was knighted by the Queen in July in a special ceremony at Windsor Castle. Those are your latest headlines here on Radio Cayman. I'm Shanda Gallego.
For the latest in news and information,
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
your voice, your choice, your radio.
Bacardi presents One Love Legends of Reggae Concert, Saturday, February 13th at Coral Beach, featuring Mr. Notch and Local Motion 345, Erica Asai, Bonafide Cayman, and DJ Craig, covering legendary reggae music with a lovers rock twist for this pre-Valentine's Day show. Catch the free pre-show from 4 p.m. with the Neverines and Sugar Daddy. Tickets to the main event, $25, available from eventpro.ky or ticket outlets, Coral Beach, Blackbeard's Liquor Stores, Winner's Circle, FIS MoneyGram, Funky Tanks, Island Naturals Cafe, and ShopRite. One Love Legends of Reggae Concert is brought to you by Bacardi, Coral Beach, Burger Shack, Supermix, Caymanian Times, and Radio Cayman.
System 1 loaded. For the record, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings from 7:30 to 9:30, we interview the various government ministers, opposition, and Cayman Island legislators. For the record is brought to you by West Bay Pharmacy at Centennial Towers. Visit us today for fast, efficient, and professional service. Everything you need and the hours you need it at West Bay Pharmacy.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thank you for allowing me the honor and the privilege. I truly feel blessed to be able to sit here almost on a daily basis and to know that it's not a case of being out of sight, out of mind, or so absence makes the heart grow fonder. And I certainly have grown very fond of you guys. So if I ever do, leave this place, I'm going to miss you all. Sorry, Susan, just kidding. I get a chance now to speak to the Cayman Islands Crisis and Outreach Coordinator, Ms. Mauricia Spencer. And as we joke and jest many times, it's such a pleasure to formally and finally, invite you to our studios. Good afternoon to you.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon to you too, because every time I am scheduled to be here, you're either on vacation or something comes up and I have to move to someone else. Not that I mind, but it's good to have finally met you today.
I'm honored, and this is the beauty, I think, of living in a place like this, right? People see, and for me, it's what you see is what you get. And I try to make it as best as I can. So.
Yes.
I won't promise to always behave, but I'll always be my better self.
Well, a little trouble is good sometimes, once it's good trouble.
Good trouble. That's what I tell you, boy. So I mean the premiere. But anyway, that's good. It's good fun. It's good fun. But I like the fact that you all have been able to take very, very serious, very important and timely topics and allow us to have access to it, to appreciate the importance of it, and to understand that if you approach things with a sense of reverence, respect, and a sense of commitment, that we can come away empowered, but positioned to make a meaningful difference.
Right.
And that's what it's about. I mean, parents don't get up every day, go to work and sacrifice, grumble and complain because they enjoy it. Yeah. I don't think so.
Well, maybe some parents.
Thankfully not ours, right? So but it's to make it better, and that's how society moves forward.
Certainly.
The new relation has been kindled. The newborn comes along and the love you feel to that aging grandparent telling you the stories, But in between there, life transpires. So how do we make it a safe place, And I'm glad for your work. So honestly, thanks very much.
And the Crisis Center, we are really honored to be given the opportunity to do what we're doing within the community, because as we know, it is a very important work that we do, because domestic violence, and I'll forever say this, is a serious issue within the Cayman Islands. So organizations like the Crisis Center and other organizations that are working towards eradicating domestic violence, it's really a serious thing that we take on.
Yeah, it's something that is interesting. I mean, at least for me, it's not that I have in my mind any more time than the people that I'm bored with the time I have. It's just important to be able to revisit things, right?
Yes.
So not just music, but look at television and look at movies and the changes that we've seen. So if you were to look at the media in a very constructive, critical, constructive perspective, you see how things are presented, and watch some of the old movies, even from the 80s, the way relations transpire, put it that way, and to see what is now perhaps an appreciation that maybe we weren't fully sensitive to what happens. We have to wonder where society is as a result of those presentations. We've gone a long way in terms of devaluing people and our experiences and the like. But to have a month dedicated to teen dating violence, I mean.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, and you would not even. But tell us.
I am happy for this initiative. So, February is observed annually as Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, and for this Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, what it is really is a month-long push to focus on advocacy, public education, just raising awareness overall, with the intent to end before it starts. Because
when you presented this topic to me, I'm thinking teens and dating in itself probably sounds like a word that probably shouldn't go together. But then violence in that, I mean, this is an age of discovery, exploration, adventure. It's an age of opportunity and enjoyment.
Yes.
And I don't know, are we naive or are we just totally blind to the obvious?
But it's funny you say that about being naive. And what you see is, so for example, a child comes from a home that is marred by domestic violence, right? They are learning certain scripts. So it can be one of two things. I witness my dad treating my mom in a particular way. Later on in life, when I have my own, adult intimate relationship, then this is how I ought to treat my partner. And the flip side of that as well, I witnessed my mom being treated a certain way by my dad. Later on in life, this is how I should, allow myself to be treated, because this is how I was cultured. This is what I knew. And there is no one to rewrite that script, that mental script. And so they go on later on in life with the notion that abuse is okay. And this is why it is important for us to target the youths, because if we really want to end domestic violence, we have to start from a very early age.
As you said, to understand the importance of it, I mean, as you share that, sometimes too we see the mother, the female partner in the relationship, just use the traditional sense, responding or behaving in a certain way,
Yes.
Maybe in tone, in action, and the like. And then that may be from the male partner's perspective, well, that's how it works, She does that, this is how it is. And you have, for want of a word that is so difficult for me to use, abuse that occurs within that, sometimes just because it's the expected norm within that culture. And no one realizes that, wait a minute, that's not really
This is not
healthy.
normal.
This isn't what, But if you don't know, you don't know, right?
Exactly. And this is why it is important for us to embark on this journey starting, this February, is to raise awareness, because I am sure a lot of teens here, even though we may not have the empirical data, to support, but I'm sure a lot of teens here are experiencing it, but they perhaps don't know that this is what it is.
Could we then ask of you in that respect two things, when you make your presentations to the secondary schools, what they would look like, but first, teen dating violence, I mean,
what is it?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to give you a formal definition.
Yes, please.
Right? So teen dating violence is a pattern of controlling behavior exhibited towards one teenager by another in a dating relationship. So it is similar to domestic violence in an adult relationship. It's just that it's happening among teens.
Okay.
And we know that abuse, domestic violence, is fueled by the need for control. So it's the same. It is fueled by the need for control. And in terms of the types, it's similar. But within the dating relationship, there are four main. So we have the physical abuse. And we know what that is. It can be hitting, punching, any physical force intended to create harm or to gain control. There is the emotional abuse. So you have threats, name calling, screaming at your partner, yelling, ridiculing, spreading rumors, and also trying to isolate. And it's funny when we say isolate among teens, maybe you'll be looking at, we don't live together, so how do I try to isolate you? Imagine this. You're at school, and here it is, you are my partner, and you are controlling. You're now going to start dictating, and as a means of trying to isolate, you're now going to start dictating, hey, I don't want you talking to Miss Annette, or I don't want you talking to Carlene. These persons ought not to be your friend. You always want to spend your lunchtime with me. At the end of school, you don't want me, getting involved in any extracurricular activity. I am always to spend every waking moment once I am not in a classroom with you. So this is how you isolate. So over time, your friends, they're no longer your friends because you would have abandoned them, not by choice, but by force.
Okay.
Right.
I'll come back to that in a second, but I understand, and maybe we need to be careful not to downplay, but I want to ask you something about that. But, so physical, emotional.
Right, and there's the digital abuse, and that's a very popular one, yes, with the teens. Everyone is on social media, and everyone is on, all digital platforms. So this can look like you monitoring the post that I make, or maybe you see someone commenting on a photo I posted on Instagram and you're like, oh no, take it down. Why is that person commenting? You need to block them. So you try to control my activities online. And it can also look like you going through all my photos, just always scanning to see what it is that I am posting. And you're always, as the teens would say, in my DM. You jump in my DM. So you're always jumping in my DM.
Get up in my Kool-Aid.
Right. And then the last one, there is the sexual abuse aspect of it. And of course, this is unwanted touching or kissing, forced or coerced engagement in any sexual act. And when we say sex, we don't only refer to intercourse. It can mean like, okay, so you're threatening to say, hey, you know, if you don't kiss me or if you don't hug me, then I'm going to end the relationship, or I'm going to tell X person that you're this type of person. So it can mean, you know, just threats, trying to coerce you into doing something that you don't want to do.
A level of manipulation.
Correct.
I want to just quickly go back because I was thinking about this earlier, and you know, have one discussion before this one after, but trying to plan and keep your thoughts. And something that jumped to that me is that, and as you were sharing the emotional part, that was to be the opportune time. Infatuation, you know, routines.
Yes.
It's probably easier for you to remember when you were teen than Susan would, but we were teens once.
It's been a while for me, but I see what
She's
I can
do. But you know, as adults, we forget what it was like to be a teenager. You get ahead. There's all this stuff happening to you, and you're confused, and at the same time, you think you have a sense of clarity.
Yes.
Right? So infatuation and whatever that word means. So if the lunchtime, the break time, the after school, the weekends, you just enamored with this person, you want to be there all the time.
You want to be there all the time. And there's the love bombing, you know. So I have these strong emotions. And a lot of times when they do experience, and I myself, you know, experience it too, and I'm sure you did. When you have these strong emotions, you just don't know how to respond to them.
Yes.
So you're dependent on the other person, you know, their actions as a guide to say that, oh, I feel this way. And if you tell me I should do this, then this is what I'm going to do, because this is how I express in, you know, physicality, how I am feeling. Yeah.
I reached out to someone who I think is a great wealth of expertise and experience, knowledge, to guide me sometimes on things. And so here's this discussion, and I think this is what we're talking about. You know, what do you say? She says, you know, her own example, and share it publicly because it could be totally wrong, but it may help. So if I could sort of impose on you what she was thinking, she remembers when her children were teens and they would have friends. No, she never used the word boyfriend and girlfriend. She had friends. Right? I won't get into why she said that. But she made a point to take them with her children wherever they would go. You know, invite your little friend around so she get to see what it's like. And then, you know, they can spend time together but not be alone, in a sense of not having other people around to do things.
Right.
Not just to keep an eye on to make sure they were safe, but to observe, but also, and this was, you know, she wouldn't agree to it, but this was 1,000 years ago, right? So she was way ahead of her time. And I was just going to ask you that. Maybe as parents, sometimes we don't see the importance of, you know, bring along your little friend, you know, however you term it, so that we can see, but also give them something to model, give them a chance to be introduced to other situations, environments, and people. Is that something that, this was long before this, right?
Yes. But back then, you know, just making a comparison to see the approaches, because things has evolved, you know, drastically since then. And back then, we tried to, I mean, as parents, you know, you were isolated, you know, by gender as well, because they'll tell you, oh, I don't want this person hanging around, as opposed to now, you know, as a parent, you call and you say, hey, if these are your intentions, not that I'm supporting, but this is hard. This is an approach that you could take. This is a healthy approach that you could take, you know, towards how you feel. So it is always important to have that conversation with your children. It is very important, because if you are not teaching them, they are going to learn it from somewhere else. And you have, once you're not the one teaching them, you have no control over what they're learning elsewhere.
So if you're not teaching them, you can't expect a great exam.
Precisely.
Right? Oh, I see it too, Bobo. All right. All right. So your presentations to your secondary schools.
Yes. So we are targeting secondary schools, and as I said at the top of the interview, we want to raise awareness. That's the key thing, to raise awareness. Right? And our approach is we're ending domestic violence one youth at a time. So we're targeting the secondary schools, and in particular the final year students, because even though February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, we want this to be continuous. So we're looking to go into maybe 2 schools per month. So the final year students, we would go in, you know, do presentation. And in the interim as well, we want to collect data, because we want to know, because as I said, I have not seen any statistics here in the Cayman Islands, not to say that it's not available, but I have not come across it. So as you know, the Crisis Center, we want to collect data to see what is happening, how prevalent it is, and how is it that we can better able respond, because we know it's happening. We do know it's happening. How we can respond to it.
If I may ask, and not too disrespectful to put you on the spot, but we don't have the empirical data on a lot of things. We don't have it on this, but the perception being that it exists. How prevalent do you think it is? I mean, do we use statistics from other larger metropolitan areas and say, well, if it's 1 in 5 or 4 in 5, then it's probably the same here? I mean, what do you think?
All right. So as it relates to statistics, right? I have some info here can share with you. However, this is coming from the U.S.
Yes.
So it is believed that 1 in 3 adolescents in the U.S. is a victim of physical, sexual, emotional, or verbal abuse from a dating partner. And if that is the same in the Cayman Islands, which we don't know, we're trying to find out.
It could be more, it could be less.
It could be more or less. But if that's the same, then it would be very alarming. And the part that stood out to me is that 1 in 3 teens who were in an abusive relationship, they never told anyone about it. So this is happening. They don't speak up about it. And what you find is that later on, they go on, in their adult years, in their adult relationship with that same pattern of behavior. So you see it goes from teen dating violence to full-on domestic violence.
Yeah.
So you have to break the cycle. Within, the formative years.
Yeah. Like everything, we don't properly instruct, educate, advise, counsel, guide, direct, do the things that we should in everything. The football player who doesn't understand how to take a proper penalty or a free kick or how to pass, control, or dribble, will never hone the skill to be not just better at the game, but to enjoy it. Same with a relationship. It's not just about opening the door on the first date or bringing flowers or something.
Yeah.
It's not a false pretense. Healthy relationships are important.
Yes, and the flip side of the campaign really is to empower teens to build and establish healthy relationship, because that is imperative.
I would probably venture to share that even as we were talking, there are some of us listening, parents, teachers, adults. Teens, what do they know about dating? They shouldn't be doing that.
But they are doing it,
But
so you can't deny.
I mean, we didn't do that because we were.
Well, no, not to say we didn't do it. I think we did it. We just didn't have the terminology to say that, hey, we were dating.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, and I try to be jovial about it, but I think that we believe that if we ignore something, then it doesn't exist. But if we ignore that they're dating, are we also oblivious that there may be in unhealthy relationships?
Yes, that's
there are
true.
aspects of violence, and I go back to what my later friend was sharing, that okay, this was a practice different. And she was, sort of a trailblazer. She insisted, you're welcome. I'm plus one, an X. And we're bringing them along to the barbecue because you know what? I know where they are.
You want to know what's happening.
And I know what's happening.
Yeah. And a lot of times, too, parents, kind of facilitate a dating abusive relationship, because here it is. You do not have that healthy relationship with your child or your children. So they do not feel comfortable or feel safe to come and say. So say, for example, myself as a teen, I'm in a relationship. My partner did something that I know it's not okay, but I really don't know how to respond to it. My parents, maybe they were so rigid, I can't go to them, so I will sit in silence. So it's either I'm going to tell my friend, and maybe if you don't want to be judged, then you're just going to keep it to yourself, because I can't talk to mommy or daddy about this. So I just, go through and see how it ends.
And what is even, as you said, what is, that is so, whatever that thing is so common amongst your peers that you go, well, I guess this is what it is, whatever that is, right? And we see behaviors that we don't appreciate can lead to even more, destructive outcomes as we age. Even though it's the month of February and it's going to be a month-long, campaign, when do you start making your presentation?
All right, so our first presentation, we have to start at home, and we have our teens and young adult lounge. That's the Taya Lounge. So we'll be doing the first presentation tomorrow at Taya Lounge with our teens. We have 2 other schools confirmed. I'm just waiting. One school, the date is still pending, but it's a definite, just for them to confirm the date. So the Cayman Academy and the Clifton Hunter High School will be doing for the month of February. And as I mentioned, each month we want to target at least 2 schools, and it's both government and private. So we're leaving no stones unturned.
No school untouched.
Well, no school untouched.
No, but it's so important, because I think as we start to appreciate, just like our approach to our physical environment, don't litter. Everybody appreciates that it's us who must take responsibility. We can't expect the birds and the cats and the dogs,
Yes.
to pick up our garbage. We should not throw it in the first place.
We have to be accountable.
Yeah, so we have to exactly responsible and accountable. I think sometimes the hardest sell is probably us as parents to come on board. The teachers understand the importance. They see it every day. They're with our children many times, longer than we are.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we speak to parents to get them to appreciate that this is not only timely and necessary, but it's essentially, something that we've ignored for so long.
Mm-hmm. All right, so getting through to the parents, and I always say this, if you take me from an environment and try to reculture me outside of that environment, and you put me back in that environment, the work that you would have done would, exactly, because I'm going back to the same thing. So it starts with targeting parents. So look at, healthy parent-child relationship, just healthy relationships overall, because it's sad to say, but a lot of parents really don't understand the concept of healthy relationships, right? Yeah. So we have to start with them. And there are many other organizations like the Family Resource Center. I do know they offer parenting courses that persons can get support for.
Yeah. I appreciate you referencing that, because I think sometimes too we somehow draw inferences that, we don't need that because we're not. And by assigning labels, single parents, at-risk youth, or we put these qualifiers, and I'm thinking, if I want to be a better driver, let me take a driving course.
Exactly.
If I want to improve how to play the guitar, we'll take some lessons. Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice to be a better parent?
Yeah.
What was the book that we all probably should have read but never did? And how do you speak to your children so they listen, or talk to your children so they listen? We can be better if we have, the use of the available resources.
And I always say, to address issues of violence and abusive tendencies in relationship, all hands needs to be on deck, right? So it's not just the crisis center, it is every pillar of society. And even though we're starting off with the schools, we are looking to target the youth, the churches, the youth group within the church organization, because that is I don't know why we're laughing.
No, we don't know why we're laughing.
We don't know why we're laughing, but let it slide, right?
Yeah, let it be.
So a lot of times, violence in relationship is perpetrated within institutions, and it is not addressed. Yeah. So we want to address it, from all angles. So we want to target the churches as well. So I'm putting the call out there. If any, church organization is listening and they would like us to come in, they can always reach out to us, and we will be there.
As you said, I'm inclined to share, and if people are offended, I apologize, but doesn't mean it's not true. Oftentimes, we assume now, obviously we shouldn't assume, but we make the unfortunate assumption that because a child attends a particular event, a church, a youth group, sports, music camp, that's a safe place, and it probably is, and it should be. But things can happen, and not even in that space among the organizers, but the people that are going there. Mommy, I'm going to youth group. Yeah, you're going, but you're not staying. Exactly. You're heading out somewhere else, right? Or while you're there, things are transpiring and nobody's paying attention because it's so busy.
Yeah, and not only that, but you have this as, an overall safe environment, so you're not looking for certain things. So it's important to pay attention to everything. But I know time is against us, but, before we wrap up, I want to just say that in response to dating violence, we do have programs and services at the Crisis Center. So we have our Kids Helpline, and this is a free helpline services for children and young adults up to the age of 18. And the helpline is available Mondays to Fridays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So they can give us a call at 649-5437. I'll repeat, 649-5437. So they can call and talk to us about anything. If you're having, maybe just a developmental issue, if you're feeling down, whatever it is, you can call and talk to us, and we'll support in the best way possible.
So Monday to Friday, 10 a.m.
to Fridays,
to
right.
6 p.m.
It's available 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
649-5437.
Right. And we also have our Teens and Young Adult Lounge. And this is a trauma-informed after-school program for at-risk youths. So they can come and they can get support as well.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. And I'm glad to see the continued support. But as a society, the recognition that this is important, and if it's one too many, so we can do something. Always a pleasure, Miss Spencer. Always
Thank
a pleasure.
you so much, and I'm sure. Well, I'm a friend of the show. It's just that I'm not a friend of yours. But that ends today. So as of today, we're best friends.
Good buddies, man. You know what? I was always, inclined to wear my purple shirt, but I didn't think it would make my eyes dazzle as much.
Well, next time we consider doing so. Next time, and we'll see.
There you go. Thank you so much, right?
You're most welcome, and thanks so much for having me.
Well, and to those who support either through monetary or volunteer the Crisis Center, I'd like to thank them as well. So you guys do a great work. Enjoy your week. Well, let the day end in a high note, all right?
All right, thank you so much, and same to you.
All right, let's pause and take a break. And when we come back, let's talk about World Cancer Day with our friends from the Health Services Authority. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
How can you take your business from good to great and thrive in the new normal? By finding the smartest, most powerful IT solutions to optimize your business operations. And now, Digicel Business Hub is making it simple for you. High-speed Wi-Fi, mobile and office phones, IT security, Microsoft Office with Teams, and much more. Everything your business needs to level up in the new normal. Get world-class IT for your business with Digicel Business Hub. Sign up today. Call us on 623-3444 or visit our website, digicelbusiness.com.
Learn about UCCI's IT Academy training programs, certifications, and the UCCI Cisco NetAcad Scholarship. More than 15 scholarships are available to new IT Academy students. Join UCCI's IT Academy informational session to learn how you can start a career in IT or further your intermediate skills and all about the scholarship. It's happening tonight, Tuesday, February 2nd, from 6 until 7:30 p.m. at UCCI. Visit www.ucci.edu.ky to learn more. Or to directly apply to the scholarship, visit www.ucci.edu.ky/Cisco NetAcad Scholarship.
For the record. For information that matters to you, the people. Hear from the government, the opposition, independents, and other experts on issues and solutions that affect you. For the record. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, tune into 89.9 and 93.9 FM from 7:30 to 9 a.m. for Cayman's new Straight Talk morning show. For the record.
I invite you to join me for the record. You are invited to be a part of this interesting and informative show. Embrace the opportunity to dialogue with your legislators, policymakers, and those charged with policy implementation.
For the record.
Brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors.
Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola.
Country classics.
Well, I was born to coal miner's daughter.
On the road again. They're gonna put me in the movies.
Papa Top again.
Out in the West Texas town of El Paso. Because you're mine, I walk the line. Well, I love the
Country classics.
Young love, first love. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table.
If you enjoy classic country music, come hang out with Radio Cayman this Saturday, 3:30 to 6 p.m.
In the Mississippi cotton picking Delta town.
This Saturday afternoon, following American Country Countdown, 3:30 to 6 on Radio Cayman.
Just walk on by. Wait on the corner.
Country classics.
Money Sense is the only personal finance radio show and podcast in the Cayman Islands, bringing an informed financial perspective to the Cayman community. Join us this Thursday as we assess Cayman's competitiveness. What is Cayman's standing in the world today, and how much at risk are we from new OECD or EU regulations? Are blacklists an existential risk for Cayman? Tony Travers will join Money Sense to discuss these very topics live this Thursday at 7:30 a.m. on Radio Cayman. Follow us on Twitter and tweet your questions to @MoneySenseRadio in partnership with the CFA Society Cayman Islands and sponsored by the Cayman Islands Chamber Pension Plan. Catch Money Sense this Thursday at 7:30 a.m.
Maintaining a strong mind and body through sports and general healthy living is a good course of action. But what about your spiritual man, your inner man? He has to be awakened, fed, exercised, strengthened, and led according to the will of God. So, have you heard the call? I'm Evangelist Brother Joseph Joey Ebanks, and I'm inviting you to worship Wednesday and Thursday nights at 7:30. We are bringing the Word of God to our communities as Jesus commanded. Faith comes by hearing, so come and hear. Bring your own chair or simply park and listen to the Word of God from your vehicle, covering the Cayman Islands with the Word of God, one community at a time.
Have you heard the call? We'll be at the junction of Reverend Blackman Road and Stadium Drive, West Bay, on February 10th and 11th at 7:30 p.m.
Speak up at the polls this general election.
On May 26, 2021, do the right thing. Exercise your democratic right and vote. A public service announcement from your number one community station, Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks for joining us. We get a chance now to talk to our good friends from the Health Services Authority about World Cancer Day. And then after the headline news, we'll end up with a half an hour of open line. But let's get informed, involved, and engaged as we talk to the oncologist, hematologist, Dr. Dundee Richards, and the cancer registrar, Ms. Amanda Nicholson. Very, very grateful that you guys would join us this afternoon. And I'm glad, it may sound weird in a sense, but that we have now in our society come to a place where we can talk about, cancer, and not just an informative way, but have people draw close and engage, and not have it whispered like it was not long ago.
Very true, very true. I think we are getting to a place where it's a little easier to talk more openly about it.
Yeah, so important. I mean, it's good to see that, continued research, physicians continuing with their education, but patients being more comfortable to share their experiences. I'm grateful, Mr. Roy Boyd in particular, to have been such a public champion to help people to understand, and that was significant. The Lions Club of Tropical Gardens and the Grand Cayman Club for their initiatives, because it makes it real. But from that perspective, before we get into the whole sort of discussion, Dr. Richards, from the notion that cancer and the connotation it has and the weight it must bring to bear on the patient, the family, the community, you see that sadly problem more often than you would like to.
Yes, that has been happening with me for a long time. I have personal history. My father was one who died of prostate cancer, so I was able to grow up, seeing somebody suffering with cancer. And in fact, that was what propagated me to move into this field. And it is always a burden on patients when they're told they have a cancer. In fact, a lot of patients would want to hear that they have a tumor rather than a cancer. But ethically, we have to be as truthful as possible to our patients and clearly outline what is happening. But at the same time, to really, in the same breath, explain to our patients, how do we manage it? What are the specific treatments, if they are, or what are the general treatments that can be given to alleviate symptoms? 2, 3, also, especially in our chemotherapy unit, it's a really personalized unit, and we see each patient almost like a member of our family, and we have that very close collaboration with them. It's certainly in terms of allowing them to be part of our family, so we can sometimes discuss even some of their own personal matters as we go along.
It is, and I think, thank you. What is World Cancer Day, Ms. Amanda?
World Cancer Day was started by the Union for International Cancer Control, and the primary goal is to reduce illness and death caused by cancer. But it's also about providing information and reducing the stigma which surrounds cancer, as you were speaking to earlier. And the theme this year, the international theme, is Together, All Our Actions Matter. But the Health Services Authority also has their own theme for this year, which is Cancer Care During COVID-19. And we have an event coming up this Thursday, February 4th, which is World Cancer Day. And the event is going to be at the Wharf at 5:30 p.m. And it's open to anyone. It's not just for medical professionals. The general public can come, anyone who wants to. And Dr. Richards will be presenting. We will also have information booths set up from various organizations within the community, like the Cancer Society, Jasmine, Breast Cancer Foundation. And the Cancer Registry will be there as well. So if anyone wants to register, there's an opportunity for them. And it's just a good opportunity to learn about how cancer care was affected during the pandemic. So,
and that is something that I've heard increasingly, not just locally and not just in casual conversation, but public appeals almost globally. Physicians, from the Barrington Declaration included, saying, hey, we need to look at how we deliver care from the chemo, but also that niggling feeling that's been ignored, and now here's a valid excuse for I'm not going to venture out. So, Dr. Richards, from that perspective, during this whole, if I can use the word ordeal, I mean, this is a new time and an experience for many of us.
Yes, it has really been a new time. I mean, COVID has come in and has affected every facet of our life. How we go about normal business, how we go to the supermarket, how we go to the bank, and certainly how we effect patient care. But if there's any positive spin to it, it is some simple reminders that we have needed sometimes to do. Simple things like, both in the healthcare sector as well as outside the healthcare sector, things like washing our hands all the time, covering our mouth and our nose when we sneeze, so these are just some of the simple good things that have come out of it as serve as reminders. At the same time, we do know that health systems across the globe have had to change the way patients are seen and the way patients are managed, and we have implemented some of those things locally.
I think too, sometimes they say necessity is the mother of invention, and we recognize that the only how we can change is when we're sort of forced to, in a sense, because we become not necessarily complacent always, but accustomed to something. Well, this is just how we always do it. Well, why? You ever put a little cayenne into your fish dinner? Oh, well, try it. Always use seasoned pepper. Sometimes it's good to safely, responsibly, and appropriately make some adjustments, but then sometimes it's just forced upon you.
Correct.
Boy. True. From that though, and looking at the presentation on Thursday evening in the public and your presentation, sometimes we come to these after work. Sometimes we may have the day off and don't feel like it. What would you say as you extend an invitation to the listening public, especially now, because we are ignoring a lot, even though the obvious is before us?
I think the critical thing that the public should come, because we have gotten somewhat, I don't want to use the word immune, but it has been COVID for the past year, and so globally we have been battered by
almost fatigued
by it. That's the word I was looking for. But I think it's important for us to keep that in mind, and so the public should come and understand a little bit more about how COVID impacts our health life, especially when dealing with cancer. There will be other things that we talk about cancer in terms of cancer management. So it is critical along the line that we all come and learn, and especially as we're looking at the change in the COVID epidemic as we go along. You're talking about the new variants that are coming about. There are at least 2 new variants in the US, the UK variant, the South African variant. And so we have to think, how are we going to manage it? We don't only leave it up to Dr. Fauci. We have to think about it locally. No, let's not leave it up to him. Not at all. We have to think about it locally. How are we going to look about and manage these new variants that inevitably it will find its way because people are traveling. It will.
If I could then maybe ask you, and as I listen to you, I can see the impact on healthcare, but also see the call for public policy to be responsive, and not in not in the level of an authoritarian approach, or nor in the creation of despots and the like, but how do we be engaging? How do we ensure that people are safe? But think of a primary school not long ago, or even the preschool. Today, on Monday, one child comes with a flu. By Friday, it's gone rampant. Right? We didn't wash our hands. We didn't do the things that we probably used to do. So, if I could maybe ask you in light to be guided by what you share, when we look at where we are now, when we look at cancer care, and perhaps specifically in the Cayman context, we have to get the drugs in order to treat. We have to get patients comfortable enough to return to continue treatment, but also to maybe speak to the physician about this thing that they know is an issue, but it was ignoring. And then on top of all of that, the idea that as we move forward, how do we get people to appreciate the physical as well as the psychological impact?
Well, that's a loaded question. It has a lot of different impact to it. You mentioned the whole aspect of public policy, and I think the government of the Cayman Islands has done an excellent job, along with the response of people, because it's two things. It's the government on one side and the response of the people, and I think both have really, really worked closely together, and I think we have done very, very well in terms of quickly clamping down and ensuring that we didn't get widespread disease. So that was one.
Yeah, the people have been commendable.
The people have been commendable, and while I don't know exactly what but I'm pretty certain that the appropriate teams, they are looking at what is happening in terms of developing policies as we go along. And one of the important things is that we recognize that policies are not necessarily etched in stone, because what happens today
could change tomorrow,
especially as we look at transmissibility of these things. The second thing is that they have done, again, with the way they organized before, and I'm pretty certain they would not hesitate to put it back. How did we organize how patients were seen at the different institutions? That was very good in terms of keeping safe distance. Thirdly, the whole aspect of within the hospital, we created a task force, a medical task force, which was very, very important in informing policy at the level of the hospital, and also suggesting the way forward to the powers that be as well, because they all rolled into the other parts of the policy that the government has set on board. So those were elements. So it is not only top down, but it's bottom up. And there was synchrony along the way that really, really helped us to keep this epidemic down. And as we go along, and we are out and about. Cayman is one of the few countries that you can walk around right now and feel safe.
We've been very fortunate that way.
And I think, as you say that too, and I don't say this to scare, to inflame, or to, do anything other than to cause us to be mindful. That could change overnight.
Yes, it could.
For any number of reasons.
Yes,
right?
It could.
And we should never take for granted. You reference hand washing. There are some of us who wash our hands constantly. Before we go to the bathroom, after we leave the bathroom, and then there are friends and family and co-workers go, and make some comment in jest sometimes, but they don't realize the impact it could have if you weren't a consciously, sort of enamored individual. Now everybody hopefully say, hey, you know what, I could wash my hands a little bit more. It just makes sense, all right? With that though, if I may then ask, because I think sometimes the sad thing is we don't have sufficient data. Politicians and physicians playing politicians and politicians playing physicians. If you don't know how to cook, just sit by the table and enjoy the meal. Don't get involved in anything else. We talk about follow the science, but if you don't have data, you can't make an informed decision, right? You can't tell you what your customer base want if you don't have the stuff. So 2 things, if I could ask. First, do we know if during this period of time, incidents of either diagnosis or deaths as a result of cancer, whether, and I know that can be sensitive, but secondly, directed to the whole issue of the cancer registry, whether now there's been an increase in people signing on or a decrease. So maybe we can start there first. But Dr. Lundy, you can be as diplomatic and politically correct in answering. But I'm concerned sometimes that, from what I've seen in other jurisdictions, initially people were reluctant, understandably so, to go and get something checked because they didn't want to contract or what have you. And then in our instance here, we've seen loved ones pass, and I'm wondering to what extent there may have been some increases in cancer deaths or diagnosis and the like. So the registry first, perhaps?
Sure. Well, interestingly, I had expected that when I ran the numbers, I would see that there was a decrease in registration for this year because during lockdown for about 3 months there, people really couldn't come in to register.
Right.
Cancer survivors often have compromised immune systems as it is.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way to get registered during those few months was if you had access to a computer and email, and it could all be done online, so nobody has to come in. But I was looking at the numbers today, and even despite the fact that we were almost shut down for 3 months, we still saw a significant increase in registration rates for 2020 over 2019. And I'm very happy to see that.
Well, that's commendable, and I'm wondering sometimes because people finally had time on their hands. I've been meaning to get to that.
Well, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
But they just never did. Or maybe it's the messaging, this is actually important. Let me make time for that. I've always had time, just to make it. With that being what I was expecting, I didn't know that, right? But what I was expecting, that's why I asked the first question. I wondered to what extent now we've seen an increases in diagnosis and or deaths in 2020 or even this first month.
For 2021, I've not seen anything,
anything
new.
Yeah.
Right. For 2020, and this is just empirical. I don't have any clear data. But again, I didn't really see. But first of all, in terms of deaths, I wouldn't have seen any, and in terms of the COVID-related deaths, we do know there were. One, two,
but I'll ignore those for now, right? Because cancer,
right. But in terms, and I mark deaths by the number of death certificates that I write,
right?
And in fact, maybe I may have written 2 death certificates in 2020.
Yeah.
And they were not related to COVID. It was just natural progression
of the cancer.
Of the cancer.
Yeah, and that's what, because the COVID part, we see that statistic, but I was thinking of the cancer. The reason why I asked, some friends who, are in other jurisdictions and who are in the healthcare sector, were growing increasingly alarmed at how many of their patients, as people were adjusting and trying to figure out.
Yeah, but one of the issue that comes up in those, because I remember I said at the very beginning that we did very well in terms of preventing the disease from being widespread.
Yeah.
And both our cancer patients as non-cancer patients were being very, very careful locally.
Yes.
And I think, therefore, that the impact in certain jurisdiction that's just having COVID sweeping would be totally different from, for example, Cayman or Australia and probably New Zealand.
Right.
But I think too, I gather perhaps that in the Cayman context too, that despite the early weeks and months, once we got a handle on it, we started to return to a sense of normalcy much earlier, and patients getting back on track with their appointments and getting their treatments.
Correct.
And so when I contrast that to other jurisdictions where as these friends would share, their patients there weren't getting out, weren't able to get out, weren't getting to follow-up visits, weren't getting to their treatments. Here we have been able to maintain that. And that's commendable to this.
And then also there are some patient-specific things that you have in certain jurisdictions. We have patients having, we call it intensive treatment, intensive radiation, intensive chemotherapy, bone marrow transplants, and so on. They are much more susceptible.
Yeah.
And if they don't follow the simple rules that we follow here, they are going to be more exposed and, of course, develop the condition and probably.
I think too, it comes back to where, as I look at our populace, we complained, understandably, but we complied.
Yes, we did.
And we, as a society, we showed a incredible sense of civility, responsibility, and respect. It made it perhaps that one or two of us that didn't, we stood out, and that should be the norm. That you realize the importance of being your brother's keeper. I just love this place, man. This is an example way.
But Cayman really shined through this whole thing. I mean,
and
our community did fantastic.
So true.
And just to make another very important plug-in right now, it is about vaccines. People need to, once they realize that it's their turn to get vaccinated, they should go out and get their vaccination. Because remember, the only way to prevent it is if our own immune system is sufficiently robust to prevent the disease coming on.
Definitely.
Right? And I know the HSA and the government have a whole schedule of people getting vaccine, and people should look forward to that.
Now, I'm mindful of your time, and Thursday says 5:30 at the Wharf, right?
Correct.
In the presentation. Ms. Amanda, you want to maybe share more with us too as we continue our discussion?
Sure, right. It is at the Wharf. It starts at 5:30, it goes till 7:30. I think there are light refreshments served and presentations, panel discussion, booths to visit. It's just going to be a great time to get a lot
booze?
Booze. No. That wouldn't make for a very good cancer-oriented event. No.
Thank you.
But booths are fun too.
It's the mask you can't hear.
That's right.
No, man. Laughter is good medicine.
Of course.
And I'm glad that as a society we've get into a place where, even my uncle, when he was getting chemo, we could laugh. You say, man, I still got my hair and my appetite. So anyway, we have to find something to laugh about.
Yes, we do. So anyone who wants to stop by is welcome to come, and it's just going to be a great opportunity to hear more about how COVID impacted the cancer spectrum in Cayman during this whole thing.
Yeah.
And for those medical professionals who want their CME, we will
Very
have
true. It's good that you mentioned that. I forgot there's a CME, yes.
Right. It's a CME event as well. So it's for everybody.
And that is so crucial to continuing your licensing and registration, and especially this time now. You don't perhaps have to incur the expense of travel. You don't have the inconvenience, and probably even the challenge of, well, where am I going? How do I get there? What's going to involve? So you get a CME. Is it 1,000 credits? How many hours? No?
I think it's 1 or 2 credits, depending.
1,000. Everybody would turn out.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That'd be a lifetime right there. Yes. One and done. No, I'm glad that you were able to have this event. I'm glad you're putting it on. I'm glad the presentation is there, and not just as the medical professionals, but the wider community to come out and appreciate that we're at a space and a place where, as we learn more about cancer and its impact, yes, it's sad, those of us who go through it, but not knowing sometimes ignorance isn't bliss, right? I mean, that's just for the realm of the politics, not otherwise. So this Thursday?
Yes.
5:30?
This Thursday, 5:30, the Wharf. That's
All
right.
A wonderful evening. The sunset is not much after. Might be able to get as a backdrop.
It's certainly a beautiful place for it.
There you go.
Definitely.
Well, I really, really appreciate it. In closing, Dr. Richards, any other information you may want to relay to our listeners? Sir?
Well, it's what I always say, that that cancer is a chronic disease. It is one that lives with us, and it's something we can live with. It's sometimes we can look at cure, but most important, how do we manage it, and how do we recognize that your neighbor, your brother, your sister can have it, and how do we go about making this place a safer place and making people more comfortable?
Yeah, man. Well, thank you very much. Ms. Amanda, we always say see the best for last, right? So.
Thank you. No, just in closing, I'd like to say that if there are any cancer survivors in the community who have not registered and would like to, come on out to the event or give me a call at 244-2560. And also all of my contact information is on the HSA's website as well.
All right. Well, thanks very much, and truly very, very appreciative of your continued work. And I hope this Thursday will be another opportunity for us to not just fellowship and network, but to come and get informed and appreciate that there's a role that we can play, and not let an illness divide us or beat us so badly that we're no longer able to smile and enjoy life. So thanks very much.
Sure.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
All right. Let's pause and take a break. And when we come back from the headline news at 2, let's wrap it up with some open line for the last half hour. Let's speculate about who's going to run where. Well, it's not a marathon, is it? Maybe it's a sprint. Stay tuned. We'll talk today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Shanda Gallego from Radio Cayman's newsroom. The Needs Assessment Unit's newest initiative to help vulnerable clients better access its services has been well received following its first 6 district visits. According to the unit's director, Tamara Hurlston, in its first 24 hours in total operation, the NAU in the Our District pilot has assisted 41 persons. The 6-month pilot proposed by the Ministry of Community Affairs and Councillor Austin Harris aims to reduce the need of older persons, those with medical ailments, and those with mobility issues from having to travel to the NAU's main office. Turning to regional news now, Pfizer expects to earn approximately $15 billion in revenue from its COVID-19 vaccine this year, the company said Tuesday. Its fourth quarter earnings report was the first since Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine received emergency use authorization from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration in December, the first vaccine to receive such approval. Since then, the vaccine, developed in partnership with German firm BioNTech, has begun to roll out across the country as well as elsewhere around the world. The House impeachment managers charge that former U.S. President Donald Trump is singularly responsible for inciting the insurrection at the Capitol last month, arguing that the Senate should convict Trump and bar him from holding future office after he threatened the constitutional system that protects the fundamental freedoms we cherish. The House managers laid out their case against Trump in an 80-page pre-trial legal brief filed Tuesday morning, in which they accused Trump of stirring up violence against Congress in an attempt to upend the peaceful transfer of power. They also provided a constitutional defense for holding an impeachment trial of a former president. And Russia's Sputnik V coronavirus vaccine gives around 92% protection against COVID-19, late-stage trial results published in the Lancet reveal. It has also been deemed to be safe and offer complete protection against hospitalization and death. The vaccine was initially met with some controversy after being rolled out before the final trial data had been released, but scientists said its benefit has now been demonstrated. Those are your latest headlines here on Radio Cayman. I'm Shanda Gallego.
For the latest in news and information,
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
your voice, your choice, your radio.
Now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Everywhere.
Can you hear me now? Everywhere. Everywhere.
Yes, right from your Android or iPhone. Download the Radio Cayman app now on your Android or iOS phone.
The Radio Cayman app
is where you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere you go.
Everywhere we go, we go. Everywhere we go, we go.
Find it in the Google Store, the Apple Store, or use the link at www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Yes, now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. And as you listen to the radio, well, I appreciate it. If you happen to be watching YouTube, listen, my mother and father have better looking children, but it's my face you have to see. So, thank you for grinning and bearing. 8949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. Miss Susan always makes us chuckle, you know. She makes it that much easier. Well, let's have some open line. And as you do, be reminded that this Thursday, 5:30 at the Wharf, the HSA, as part of celebrating World Cancer Day, is having a presentation. And, you know, Dr. Lundy will be there. So go along, get registered as part of the Cancer Registry. get informed if you're in a medical field, but you get a CME as well as part of your continuing medical education. Now, what's on your mind? Have you seen some of the press releases about candidates who are considering certain constituencies? I think some are excited, some are, well, I wonder if he's going to do it, I wonder if she's going to do it, I wonder if they, well, you know what, don't not let opportunities pass us by. So we don't have to talk about politics, but between now and the end of the year, well, always a good subject, always makes for good discussion. Can even cause many of us to get into a bit of a scrape. But for others, it just, brings us together. So we want you to have, a great sense of being welcome and invited to share with us as we listen to what you want to say. 9498037 if you're not able to call the Flow toll-free line, which is simply 1-800-534-8255, the same numbers you use for the record or for UFlex. So let's go to the phones. Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Mr. Ambassador, good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
All right.
And you? Listen, man, I am blessed, truly grateful, and hopefully gracious. And I hope I never forget, to show a sense of gratitude and hospitality. So I am blessed, my friend. I am blessed.
Maybe you the one most informed one in the island.
You think so?
Before what I want to speak about, I hear those Cubans, they demonstrate in front of government building.
They're across the street today.
If you can tell us what is the reason they are demonstrating for.
Okay. Well, what have you heard? I mean, what do you understand is the reason? Do you know?
Some arrest of a child or something.
Okay. Well, you see, my understanding, again, my Spanish isn't that great. I like the food, the music, and the people, whether it's Spain or Cuba or any of the Latin countries, but it still doesn't mean that I speak it fluently. My understanding is that they're feeling that there are some family members who perhaps may have one level of immigration status and the others aren't, and there's a sense of exclusion. But without speaking to their issue specifically, we have to question our own immigration sort of rules and regulations and laws and policies and the like. And seemingly, we allow some people to be more easily granted a work permit than others, some people to navigate the PR process more easily than others. Even when we were cognizant that we may have had discriminatory practices in terms of age or nationality, it took us a while to address it. Now, I'm wondering, and again, this may just be me, my, sort of a quest to be forgiven in this, but we look at a strong historical and cultural and familial connection to Cuba. We even granted them some level of status at one point. How is it that sometimes we make it harder for some to live and work here, and yet others can come, on the cover of night or under some other guise and be integrated into our society? Very, very curious, huh?
Yeah. I really call, not to speak about the Cubans, but I will stand with anybody who the government taking their rights, human rights, and I always fight for human rights.
Okay, definitely.
But what I want to speak about is this political game they are playing now. They're using Mr. Bush, what happened with Mr. Bush, I'm not here to defend his actions. I'm here to clear the picture to the general public that politicians, hopefuls running for election, they are using this as a platform for them to promote themselves.
But isn't that the sorry, as you continue, but isn't that sort of the very distasteful part of the Westminster system. It's it's adversarial. It's the opposition, is the government in waiting. We got to look good in order to do that. We got to make you look bad. So it's not part of the par for the course, as it were. I mean,
Dwayne, look, there is 3 members of the House.
Mm-hmm.
They have bashed, abused women. And
how that, if that has transpired, has that been just alleged or just has that been proved in court? So in the absence of that, right, why don't we speak to a wider issue? If abuse in any form, if abuse by politicians, for instance, or high-ranking members of a society, whether they hold office in government, elected or appointed, whether they're appointed to boards, whether they're at the helm of large organizations. If we're speaking to the issue of abuse of office, abuse of person, should that not be something that immediately there is a sense of expectation of what will transpire when it does occur?
Dwayne, you know the strange thing, that one of the people are members of the House demonstrating against abused women. He is just recently, couple of months ago, his wife ran away.
But if I may ask of you, I mean, how do I put this? Sometimes, we try hard to disparage by not necessarily speaking to issues, but by just demeaning the person. So let me help you to help me to get to a point of principle. How do we speak to the issue where this society, let's take drinking and driving. What if our society was a place where you go out and you celebrate with it, with family and friends, but there is immediately, not because of the law, not because of the social sort of consequence, but just because it's the smart thing to do, you're going to be driving because you're the one that did not have anything to drink, not even a sip, a smell, a snort, or whatever it is, right? Could our society be that when it comes to its approach to protecting our children or elderly, not being abusive because of our position or our person?
Dwayne, look, the issue is here that, for example, me, Amjad, or Dwayne, or anyone go out and saying, for example, Dwayne.
If you could be a negative connotation, don't use my name because I don't want to be speaking into being. But I hear what you're saying.
I mean, any person.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
Go and demonstrate and says, all right, for example, I am, this person is doing wrong.
Right, okay.
But the same person who demonstrating or standing against this behavior himself is committing that behavior I'm speaking about.
But as I listen to you, right, I mean, sometimes a person can speak from a position of empathy. Sometimes a person can just be false. But if a community knows what transpires and the community knows, but in the absence of that, just generally speaking, if we are in a space where we're not mindful of who's guarding the guards, right, and if we're not as a society, especially as voters, registered voters in an election year, if we're not prepared to exercise that power that we have as voters, to go to the polls and say, okay, and if those who say, well, you're being political, well, then you call me and tell me otherwise, right? There are 19 people on the ballot, you're going through them, and you're saying, okay, I can only vote for the people in my area, but I'm going to vote on this issue because of this is what's important to me. If the voters don't do that, then who is it that you sort of hold accountable?
Dwayne, look, first, Mr. Bush tomorrow in May 26, he will be under the voters' judgment.
Just like all of them, right? Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
All of them.
Right.
The general public.
Yes, sir.
If today you broke down the government, because if they remove Mr. Bush, the other members who join with them in government, the government will fall down. We have no government until May.
Okay, but let me ask you, because maybe you're more knowledgeable about this constitutional thing than I am and the rest of us. But if a person is, in this case, if Mr. Bush steps down or was removed as Speaker, he still remains a member of the Legislative Assembly, or as they call it now, Parliament. And if he still supports the government, does that mean that the government falls?
Government will fall apart, of course, because the members...
Not if they still enjoy his support, right?
The support, they will move their support to the benches of the opposition. Then the government lose the majority and then fall down.
Okay,
That's
so
what will happen.
Let me then ask then, right? Again, not maybe understanding constitutional law and the like, but if I was to draw from what you're saying and infer then that our system has created a party system. We have the Premier, who is in control and ultimately responsible for all the ministers. So if there's action or inaction, does it not fall squarely in the lap of whoever is Premier? And then if it's a good thing, you get the credit. If it's a bad thing and there's no action, then you should, what they say, take the licks. I mean, so is it then that it's the Premier, whoever is the head of the government, the elected government at the time, the one that is most accountable and should be held to atone for the actions?
Yeah, Dwayne, look.
Mm-hmm.
What happened with Mr. Bush happened, but we are speaking about the country, not one person.
Mm-hmm.
We are speaking about the stability of Cayman Islands.
Right.
We are talking about we will stay without government if this happens, if this motion passes.
But are you convinced? Sorry, forgive me. Sorry, but are you convinced that if in this instance Mr. Bush was replaced as Speaker, so he steps down from Speaker, and somebody else, even someone else from outside, the process allows that the Speaker can come from an elected member or from someone appointed from outside. So if that was to happen, and he still supports the government, why does that mean that the government has to fall, as some have alleged?
Yeah, because the ones who support Mr. Bush will walk across the aisle and go to the opposition, and the opposition will form government. So is that good for the country to form a government in 3-4 months before election?
Well, remember not long ago we had Mr. Bush arrested. It was December. The elections was it May, and not long. So we had what they call a caretaker government. So not much difference between now and then. But let's ask the question. I mean, is it about what is good for the government, or is it potentially how it's perceived and what it's saying? Not with great respect, not just to the international community, but to the members of our society, the men, the women, the children. Now, we're not adjudicating, and well, what do you think?
Dwayne, look, just give me the final words I want to say here.
As long as you make it on principle, not person.
Don't cut me.
No, but
because
again.
Sometimes, first, I am not saying whatever happened is right or wrong.
No, we're not talking about that.
I am saying here there is more important than any person in this country is, more than important than the person is the country more important. The step to stabilize the country. We are in COVID-19 problems. We are in economy problems. We can't destabilize the government. We can't stabilize the system now. We are close 3 months to general election. So we make the voters say, all right, we don't want Mr. Bush or we want Mr. Bush. But that's the general public need to remember that during 40 years Mr. Bush representing this country, he done so much thousand things good.
A lot of wonderful things, yes.
One thing wrong, like Mr. Bush is an angel and he have to be punished for even if he do one small wrong, he has to be punished. Wait, Dwayne.
No, but I was going to ask you though. I mean, in listening to what you're sharing, are we missing the big picture? If we're pointing the fingers only at Mr. Bush, if we're laboring on the antiquated Westminster model, and we're talking about independence, is it then that the finger should be pointed at the Premier? I mean, just from the technical constitutional aspect of it, as the political leader in the country.
Dwayne, look, the Premier is not a person who don't know what he's doing.
No, nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying
He
that.
have long time served in the.
Yes, sir.
He know that we are close to election.
Mm-hmm.
He will not support such motion to destabilize the country, and I agree with him because this is nonsense. You destabilize your country 3 months because a little argument between a man and woman happened.
Well, I think there'll be some who would. But anyway, I hear your perspective. Go ahead, and it's always good to engage in that. I'm judged with the greatest respect. Sometimes I only reminded that I don't have the control of it here. But let's pause, take a short break. When we come back, who else has another view? Stay tuned for Talk Today.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. Are you aware of the performance of your pension plan? The Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan provides quarterly fund fact sheets for our members to stay informed with the plan's performance. For the year ended August 31st, various life cycle funds provided returns between 9.2% and 16.5%, and our all-in expense ratio is currently the lowest it's ever been, a record low at 0.72%. Visit chamberpension.ky to review our fund fact sheets. You can see the performance as far back as 10 years. Remember that pensions are a longer-term investment strategy. Focus on the long term rather than the short-term returns. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan continues to perform for you.
Country classics.
Well, I was born to coal miner's daughter.
On the road again. They're gonna put me in the movies.
Papa Top again.
Out in the West Texas town of El Paso.
Because you're mine, I walk the line.
Well, I love
Country classics.
young love, first love. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table.
If you enjoy classic country music, come hang out with Radio Cayman this Saturday, 3:30 to 6 p.m.
In the Mississippi cotton picking Delta town.
This Saturday afternoon, following American Country Countdown, 3:30 to 6 on Radio Cayman.
Just walk on by. Wait on the corner.
Country classics.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us. A few minutes left in this open line segment here on Talk Today. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Susan is standing by to take your orders right now. So give us a shout and share your thoughts with us. Well, what do you think about the last caller's comments? I hope that I didn't offend him or come across as such, but is it that if there is any movements now, as he's shared, that would result in the government, falling? If it does, is that a bad thing? I mean, according to some comments, perhaps there would be an early election now. Is there a system such that, like Jamaica and the UK and some other jurisdictions, where the sitting government can call an election in short order? Perhaps if that is the case, maybe some of us are laboring under the notion that we have a system that election is set and every 4 years and there's a prescribed format. So it can't be that it occurs as it does in those other jurisdictions where the sitting government can call an election and sort of catch, the opposition or the others off guard. But then again, Politics in this country seem to be interestingly changing every day. 949-8037. Let's go to the phones. Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for your thoughts.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm just calling about Mr. Bush.
Yes, ma'am.
I think he have done so much good things for this country.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like he just make a mistake. Why can't I forgive him? Why tearing him down?
Mm-hmm.
Help him. Pray for him. Do something. Not to tear him down.
As you shared that, I was looking at a message during the break, and it said, we point fingers sometimes at only one, but we don't look at the others as well. So,
right.
Okay. What would you have us do, though? I mean, in instances like this where there are people, and it could be a politician, it could be the senior partner in a law firm, it could be the head of a financial services firm, it could be something else. And it could be a level of abuse that has been before the courts, or it could be just something that transpired and, we're not sure, or just other what's alleged. Two questions there. What is your view relative to that sort of behavior in our society? Are we condoning of it, or are we sufficiently willing to turn a blind eye, as it were?
Well, no, not condoning of it, not turning a blind eye, but again, everybody make mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
Some people have done worse than that.
Well, that's the other question.
And it's not out in the public.
Right.
I mean, you can give them a chance.
Yeah.
Every one of us as humans make mistake, and he have done so much for the Cayman Islands.
Yeah. So why is it then?
Don't tear him down. He made a mistake. Don't tear him down.
Yeah. What do you think it is then that some people, no matter what, they always seem to, how they put it, can get away with anything. Other people, the slightest misstep, they're castigated. Why do you think that is in our society? That we ignore the obvious missteps of some, but constantly berate the others.
Well, that is really I don't know. I think he already apologized for the wrong that he has done. So, I mean, give him a chance. Everyone deserves a second chance.
All right. Well, appreciate you sharing that. Anything else you want to share with us?
No, that's what I called to say.
Well, thank you for being, courageous enough to show your, share your sentiments with us. So thanks for it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, have a wonderful afternoon.
Okay.
And the WhatsApp, if you want to share a thought with us that way, 925-3261. If you want to call us, well, you can do so at 949-8037, or you can equally call us on the Flow toll-free number at 1-800-534-8255, as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. Now, speaking of WhatsApps, this listener writes, says, Mr. Bush has been given a second chance. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or 949-8037. Or, of course, you can WhatsApp 925-3261. It's a Wednesday, right, Miss Susan? No, tomorrow's a Wednesday. See that? So, as you come back tomorrow for Talk Today, please be mindful that our very own Kathy Miller will be hosting the show tomorrow. I'm going to be on what I call special assignment. And she has shared with us what we think is going to be a very, very engaging and lively discussion. Glad that she was able to reach out to some excellent panelists to be part of the discussion. You'll find it timely. You'll find it informative. It may cause you to think, very long and hard about some things, and to realize the challenges that lie before us. So I'm glad that she's going to be sitting in some of the things that we're trying here. That is hopefully helps us, for the good things that lies ahead of us, And when we think of where we are, we got a lot of interesting things to share. So I've got to tell our listeners that as you join Catherine Miller tomorrow for the show, you maybe find it to be just a wonderful reprieve. It's always good to have a little bit of variety. So join me start in the morning for the record, of course, and then come back for Talk Today after the midday news and midday meditation. Have a wonderful, safe and productive afternoon. If you look in the mirror and don't like what you see, well, you know what? Be reminded that at least someone loves you. Until tomorrow, we would just say, as you move about the space and the place, find ways to improve your lot so that you can improve the lot of others. Until then, be blessed.